Hello, in this video we are going to give you a introduction to ACLs, and which is a topic that it is a little bit confusing for some people. I was really confused by it the first time I was introduced to it, so that's why I wanted to go over a PowerPoint so I can better introduce you guys, or to give you a lot of different ways, to catch your attention on what basically ACLs are. And in Active Directory, you can use an access control model to secure objects and attributes, and those attributes can be a group like domain admins, files, folders, Active Directory objects, registry keys, printer devices, support services, users, threads, and processes. Those are the attributes that we can secure in through the access control model in Active Directory. And when editing rights on these objects, right? These are objects. The groups are an object. The user is an object. Computers are also another object that are. Yeah, it's not in here, but I forgot. Well, devices, right? Like computers and servers. I forgot to add it here. Are objects. All of these are objects, and they can be controlled through through basically an ACL, right? You can create access control entries, basically, to give access to users or to anything else. And let me show you the other one in here so you can see what the difference is whenever somebody talks about the ACL or the DACLA. So this is what the DACLA is. It's basically all the permissions, right? That's what it is. And the SACL is just basically the editing, like who is editing, who's doing what, whatever. It's like the logs. That's what it is. And then we have the security principles that are in here. And a DACLA or DACL is it identifies the security principals who are allowed or denied access, right? You can see in here who is allowed or denied access to do anything, right? And an ACE or ACE is basically this entry right here, right? So a DACLA is composed or multiple ACEs, right? As you can see over here, which the A's have principals, and the principals are basically like if I add a user in here, like let's say username student1, the principal then is going to be student1, right? And then you are going to give it what permission it's going to have over what object and all of that good stuff. So if you guys still do not understand, that's okay. We are going to go ahead and take a look at what I'm talking about. So the first thing that I would like to do, let me go ahead and show you a live, basically a live version of what I'm talking about. I'm going to go to my domain controller, and I'm basically going to go into the groups, right? And all of these are objects that can be manipulated or controlled by access but you can add security to it. So let's go ahead and go to the domain admins, which is the one that we actually want to take a look at. And you can see that I see a lot of more stuff in here. If you want to see everything, what you want to do is you want to go to view and advanced features. If you disable advanced features, you're not going to see everything. So you want to go to advanced features if you have a lab environment at home. So let's go to groups. Let's go to domain admins, and let's go to security. In security, you can see in here that the student one has access to read. So I'm going to be able to read, also write the phone number and read the phone number. So I'm going to be able to edit the phone and mail options for the domain admins. That means is that student one has access to basically add like a phone number to this domain admin group. Okay, so that's basically what ACEs are. And you can add some attributes that could be manipulated in a way that it could be dangerous to your environment, which we are going to go over. But first, let's go ahead and student one, and let's go ahead and go change directory, and let's go ahead and go to the AD. Let's go ahead and do a PowerShell, and let's go ahead and bypass execution policy. And then we want to import the module that we have been using all along, which is PowerView. Again, PowerView to the rescue. And what we want to do is we want to get all the ACLs associated with my current user. And who am I? Let's say, if you don't, who am I? So I am student one. So what I want to do is I want to get object ACL, and what you want to put in here is the same account name, student one, and you want to resolve the GUIDs. There we go. So what this is going to do is it's going to take a look at all the ACLs that I have access to, and what you want to take a look at is basically you want to take a look at the object DN. This tells you right here is who the object is, basically who the object is. So the object is student one, which means that myself. And then you also want to take a look at the object SID, which means in who has access to it. So right now, student one, to this object, student one, this object SID has access, has generic all access, which means that it can do anything with student one. So let's go ahead and find out who is this object, right? So what we could do, we can do the get domain user, and we can put name student, because I believe it is myself, because I should have generic all access to it. And if you take a look at the object SID, yep, 1603. So what this is saying is that I have generic all access. I have full access to my object, right? This guy over here, which is the student one. So myself, you can see over here, right? Student one. So I myself have full access, right? And you can see generic all, which means is that you have all access. And you can see the ACE qualifier, which is access allow. It will either be an access allow, access deny. But you can see that I have generic all access, which means that I have access to everything. And what you basically want to pay attention is to the Active Directory rights that you have, who you have that access to. So who is that Active Directory rights that you have access to, and the object SID to see if it is your account or another account that you could possibly take over. Okay, so you can see right here another 1603, which means that it is myself. So I do have access to create child, delete child, self. So I do have full access to myself, because I should be able to edit, to edit, to change my password, to do whatever I want with my object, to my object student one. And you can see all the basically all the what I want to say, you can see all the ACLs for student one, which is a lot, right? But let's see who has access to, let's go ahead and clear to the domain admin groups, right? SAM accounts, I think you can do quote domain admins, and there we go. So you can see in here who has access to the domain admin. This one right here, I bet you it is going to be the domain admin itself that has generic all access. We can verify that by doing a get. I think you cannot see that. There we go. Get domain group, name domain admins. And 512, there we go, to see the object ID. So I'm looking at all the access control or the ACLs for the domain admin, and you can see that which one is the object ID, which we know it should be the same because we only look for domain admins. So you can see in here that it says domain admins, but who is the object that has access, that generic all access to it, is this guy over here, which is the domain admin itself. Okay, so here's all the good stuff that you can find in here, who has access and all that. It could be a lot to go through all of this, so I will give you a couple of good, basically I'm going to give you one good way to do enumeration for ACLs. So let's say that you want to become a domain admin, or you want to basically see if we have any access to domain admins. Like I said before, when we went to get domain admin name user, because I am the student user, I want to make sure if I have any access to it. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to put this command in here. So let's go ahead through it. Let's go through it. Right, I'm saying get object ACL for the same account. If you put this basically called a wildcard, it is going to look in every single user. But I don't want to look in every single user. I just want to look in the domain admins. Right. So what I'm saying right now is that I want to do a get ACL, get object ACL for the same account. Domain admins, I don't think it's the same account. I think the same account should work. Domain admins, we are going to resolve the GUIDs. But now what I want to do is I want to, the Active Directory rights, I want to match it to generic right. And if I have generic right access, I'm going to be able to add whoever I want to the domain admin. So I want to see if I have it. And then I'm pulling another basically one of this. So yeah, we are pulling the security identifier. So I'm saying that if the security identifier matches this over here, right, then I want you to give it to me. Let's see if we find anything in here. As you can see, we did not find anything. So let's go ahead and see. Let's go ahead and go to home, and let's go ahead and run the wildcard and see if we find somebody where we have, or any object. So if we do a wildcard, it's going to look for any object, all the objects in the domain, and see if we have generic right access to any of the objects. And let's see if we find one in here. I think we should be able to find one. It shouldn't take really that long. I know it's going through every single object and see if it matches this script in here. See if we have generic access to anything. And there we go. So we have to this object DN, we do have access, generic right access to these Heath Adams. And you can see here the object. Actually, I think I missed. So the object ID or the object SID is basically, I think I confused. So the object SID is the SID for the object DN. The security identifier is the one that has the access. So that's why I put security identifier to match. So what happened is that we did a get object ACL for all the objects, right? And then I said, but what I want you to look for is in the Active Directory rights in here, I want you to see if we can match something that is called generic right, match generic right. And also I want you to match to the security identifier to this one in here, which is the SID, right? The security identifier for my user in here, right? Because if it matches the security identifier, it means that the student one account is the one that has the generic right access to this account, which we put a wildcard, which is for any account. Okay, so that's great. That's what I wanted to do. So now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and do see if we can find in the Active Directory rights of the domain admins, see if we can find a generic right and with the security identifier of my student one account, which is the current account that I'm logged into the server. But what we're going to do is I'm going to show you where is that you can manipulate this, right? If you go to properties, you go to security, let's go ahead and go student one. So what you need to do is you need to give yourself right access to it. A student one, which is the current account that I'm logged into the other server. Bam. So let's go ahead and do that, and let's go ahead and run that. See if we find it, or see if it actually works. And there you go. Now we were able to find it. So we have access allowed, like I said before. The object DN, which is basically this domain admin in here. So what we're looking for, let me explain to you again. So we are looking for all the security, all the ACLs for the domain admins, right? And then we said, I want you to look for all the security, all the ACLs, all the ACLs for the domain admin groups. But what I want you to look for, I want you to go into the Active Directory rights, because this is what it is interesting to me. What I want to look for is generic right. If this field in here, if this column matches to generic right, and also if the security identifier down here matches this account, then I want you to display. And then there we go, boom, it is display. This means that my account, the student one account, has access to generic right, which is we just added it right from the AD. I went to the AD as an admin and I added it so I can show you. So what can we do with generic right? Well, we can do something really good, really cool. So what we could do is add domain group member, and then we want to do identity domain admins member, because we want to add a member. Since we have generic right, we're able to write to this domain admin, right? So member student one, which is myself, to the domain pen testing, which is the current domain that we are in. So this is what it's going to do. So before we do that, let's go ahead and copy this, and so you don't think that I'm cheating, let's go ahead and do a get domain user student one. So you can see that get domain user, oops, okay, name student one. There you go. So you don't see, if we go to member of, you can see that he's only a member of my current user, right? Student one is only a member of the RDP group, okay, and nothing else. And if you do a who am I, student one, okay. So now we are going to run, oops, did I not copy that command? I guess I did not copy that command. So let's go ahead and do it again. At domain group member, and we want to do identity domain admins, and the member that I want to add, or the members you could add to, is going to be student one. To the domain, you want to specify the domain too, pen testing, and there we go. So let's go and run that command. There we go. So that command has been added. So what happened is that since we found out that we have generic right to the domain admins, we find out that we found out that my student one, right? We find out by the security identifier. We find out that we have generic write access to the domain admins, which means that we are able to add members to that domain, including myself. And then what we did was we did, okay, cool, since we have that access, let's go ahead and add myself to that group. And let's go ahead and now run again get domain user for student one. And now get domain user for student one, you can see that I am now part of the domain admins because I executed this command over here, because I also found out that my user has full access, not full access, has write access to the domain admin account.